Well, it was better, but still not up to scratch. Defensive errors once again cost Perth as they go down 2-0 to Wellington. The Kiwis are flying as they prepare for a 1v2 Kiwi derby and set for launch. Aleague Women's round 1 set to kick off this weekend. Welcome to the Far Post Perth Podcast, powered by ID Athletic. Great to have you on board again, no matter where you are listening. And don't forget, you can grab this podcast, tell all your mates. Now available on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube Music, if that's the way you want to go about things. Blayne Treadgold is my name on this edition of the podcast. Neil Sherwin, welcome.
Good to be back for another week, yeah.
Yeah. What's been happening?
Work, life, adult stuff.
Football getting in the way of it all?
Life getting in the way of football, more so. Yeah, but still managed to see most of the action at the weekend, which is great.
Good stuff. And making his debut off the bench, Jaxon Bassett's been... he's been a decent contributor to our written content. Now he joins us behind the mic. Jaxon, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be coming off the bench and see what I can do.
It's a bit Moneyball though. If you can replace two people with one,
we've gone down that line, haven't we?
Yeah. So maybe that's the way we're headed.
Yeah, but you talk about money. I'm not getting any. Is anyone getting any?
No.
Boys, let's have a little bit of a look at what's been happening across the weekend. We start off with a segment we like to call the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's where we get a little bit off our chest and maybe celebrate some of the heroics from the week in football, maybe the week in life, or a few other areas. So I'll throw it to you first, Neil. And what did you think was good across the last week or so?
The very, very, very good was Rodri winning the Ballon d'Or. Proper footballer. Shirt tucked in, no social media, chopping lads down on the halfway line and enraging the Vinicius Junior season Twitter accounts at the same time. So it's been a fun last 24 hours or so with City's first player to win the Ballon d'Or, and a brilliant player, my favourite to watch. Class player. So yeah, that was the very, very good. The good was probably being back at HBF Park for a game. I think we get 13 opportunities to watch the men's 12 this year.
Yep.
Let's be honest, we won't get a home final. And it's important to maximise those experiences and to head along to the games. And I think that Saturday night slot for me is prime. I know it doesn't suit all families and people with kids and everything else, but not my problem. I love going on a Saturday night. I think the 6:30 or so kickoff is the sweet spot, especially as we head into the summer months, playing under lights, great stadium, great views. Generally a pretty good atmosphere considering the numbers there. And yeah, as I said, you don't get that many opportunities to do it, and we wait long enough for it to come back around. Because when was the last home game? Would have been April, maybe?
Yeah.
So yeah, we've waited, at the best, over 6 months to get a home game. So it's nice to have that back. And there's nothing better than watching live football, even if the results don't necessarily
I've got to admit, I had a bit of a buzz when I walked in. I was sitting in for the commentary gig that I was doing for Sport FM on the weekend, and there was no one around, and it's actually really cool to be able to walk in there and there's no one around, and the pitch is just still getting just some final little touches on it and everything else, and there's a few other people, and the match commissioner doing his thing, and it's just, there's a little bit of a buzz. And I'll tell you what, that pitch on the weekend looked outstanding when I walked in there, and I thought it played pretty well.
I think so, and I think there's been a couple of good pitches. I thought the Western United one looked pretty good as well in their game. We'll touch on that later on, but the MacArthur one, not so good. But HBF Park has always been outstanding until we get the monster trucks, or we get the Foo Fighters, or we get whoever else ripping it up.
Because
it's coming.
It is coming.
It's coming
next month in November.
So enjoy it. But it's just a good place to watch football. Like we talked about High Marsh last week, and some of the other football purpose stadiums, Central Coast, Amy Park as well. But that's our own little spot, and it's great to be back there. So yeah, look, everybody gets a little bit sentimental about things they enjoy, and it's just part of routine and part of life. So I think you could see that with the 7,000 or so people that were there. I know I had family that actually went to their first game with their kids who've just got into football, and they loved it despite the result. They got to meet the players afterwards, get some autographs, get some photos.
Unique.
It's good. We're not too big for our boots that we can't have the players go around and pose for a few selfies after the game, and there is that element of connection that you can build. So yeah, the good for me, just being back at a game.
Yeah.
And maybe that will disappear pretty quickly, results depending. But for the first one, I'm happy.
No, I wouldn't have it any other way. Jaxon, what was good for you over the last week or so?
Well, you briefly mentioned MacArthur there and the state of their pitch, and I do like a bit of the physicality and drama, and I did enjoy some of the biff at the end of that game between them and Newcastle, with Ingham and Nicolas going at it, and then Uscott came in with the massive wide eyes. And,
yeah, he did.
I thought that was good. It adds a bit of spice to the fixture, the return fixture later on.
it was hard to, obviously when you're watching on the TV screen, it was hard to actually see what kicked all that off. It was obviously there'd been some words throughout, and Dane Ingham, I think he's a pretty. I've never seen him as in that kind of context before, so it was a little bit odd there. But yeah, it is good just to see a little bit of spice.
Yeah, there's no punches thrown or anything like that. Just a good old fashioned push and shove, and looking forward to the next week.
Who was that? What was that classic one with Barisha and Barisha wanted to drag him out to the car park?
Wasn't
Ready? Sydney FC.
Wasn't Ante Kovic when he called him the
no,
salesman?
No,
that
it was
another.
Sydney FC.
Wasn't there one with Barisha and Reddy one year at HBF?
Barisha's, I think, gone toe-to-toe with a lot, but there was one that was... I'm trying to think. I'm going to have to look it up. Someone will tell it once this... once this goes, I'm sure someone will tell us all over the social media. Boys, my good, and it pains me a little bit to say it, but Kiwi football at the moment is absolutely flying. Auckland's been a revelation coming into the competition. I think that they can take on, a good portion of the responsibility for just a new buzz in the league this year. Wellington, they're doing very, very well. We saw what they could do on the weekend, and we've got a Kiwi derby coming up this weekend, 1v2, and they're also on the verge of making a World Cup. So
yeah, it's a good start for them. I mean, Auckland have been a little bit of a leg up with the two home games, and the attendance did drop down to about 14,000 at the weekend, but still the Estonia flags were being waved, and there was a pretty good active support, and they got a good result again, and that's key for momentum. They haven't conceded yet in 2 games. It's a pretty good start. Wellington as well, 1 goal conceded in their 2 games, and it sets this weekend up nicely. And the good, I suppose, to tack onto that was the banner that they flew over the stadium.
I really hope that was fan funded and through the fans.
Rather than, but there's a few billboards as well, though, up to New Zealand is yellow. There was a few in and around Auckland as well. So it's petty, and we love it. It just ignites that little bit of a rivalry, and before a ball's even kicked against each other. So I'm really looking forward to that game at the weekend. And as you say, it's been a good start for both teams. And we spoke about it in the previous episodes, but around that, if we're going to have this Kiwi representation, it needs to amount to something. Yep. The Phoenix were a bit stagnant for a few years. They had a good response, and now since they were almost gone. But this Auckland introduction to the league is only going to kick it even further. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the crowd this week to see what they can come up with. I'm sure there'll be a few banners and a bit of a rivalry, and it's what the league needs.
Yep, absolutely. Neil, I'll let you carry on with your bad.
My bad. Eric Ten Hag being sacked. He's doing a wonderful job, so that was disappointing. He just needed more time to have him down in 14th. But now in terms of the A-League, look, just watching Glory, it's not great so far. We'll go a bit deeper into the game itself, but expectations weren't high, but we've even gone lower than that with the 2 performances so far. Mainly because it's just not been entertaining from a Glory perspective. I don't mind losing if, it was a bit of swashbuckling created chances, but they just seem to run out of ideas in both games pretty quickly. And it hasn't given anything, it hasn't given much hope at the moment. We after the 6-1 home game, you're thinking maybe they'll come out. We were promised a performance. Stan said we'd win. And that did put unnecessary pressure and expectations there, and it transpired that they just simply weren't good enough again. So it's hard to see now where the optimism comes from until they actually show us a performance. Where that performance comes from, maybe it's the Central Coast away this weekend, but I wouldn't put my savings on it.
Jackson, what was bad for you across the last week?
Watching Man United, probably. I was just couldn't believe some of the chances they missed against West Ham. I was just pulling my hair out, screaming at the TV. President launched the remote at it. But also Melbourne City as well for me were pretty poor in that home derby. The first 25 minutes was just really poor by their standards, and I thought home game for them, Amy Park, I thought they would have come out firing a little bit more, and it was very flat from them. There was a bit of pressure on Vidmar, I think.
I didn't see that one, and we'll go through it a little bit more, but I mean, was it 3-0 in the first 25 minutes or something like that?
Yeah, it could have been 4 with they disallowed goal as well, which is a little bit fortunate. for City's sake. Then obviously Victory took the gas off after that, and they cruised to a win, really.
I'm going to take that and run with it, but as is Beach, the stomp. We saw a player go the week before for City, and this was against City when Jimmy Jago obviously went the week before, but it's got to be 3 or 4 weeks, doesn't it?
Well, they've only offered him. They've offered him 2.
It's got to be more.
No, they've after review they've offered him 2, and they've got till tomorrow, which was Wednesday, if you're listening, to appeal that 2-game ban. John Moss, the new head of referees. I mean, people were bringing that up, but he was one of the worst in the Premier League. Was said that that there was mistakes made, and they generally had a good game, and they'll educate them and all of that. But for the referee, if a referee misses it by being blindsided, fair enough. That's what the VAR is there for. But how the VAR could review that and not deem it a straight red card is mind-boggling, because it was the second action with his right foot, I think it was, to stamp down on the player. That to me was absolutely a red card. You could toss up for a yellow prior to that, but as soon as that action happened, it's a straight red card. I mean, I don't know whether it was 3-0 at that point, that it would have effectively the game was over as a contest, but it would have made it even worse. Maybe they took a bit of leniency into it. But taking it as an incident in itself, it's a red card all day, and it's really, really poor. That I'd given the VAR credit for some of the decisions, and the one that I did give it credit for was the penalty for MacArthur against Newcastle. They subsequently missed it, but I thought it was a foul. I thought the defender was too eager to win the ball. The striker used his body well, rolled him, and was fouled, and that was clear. And then we had an incident in the Sydney and Auckland game where Sydney should have had a penalty for a wrestle in the penalty box. That was absolutely a foul. So it's too hit and miss. But the Bayich one is so clear that it's not even, to me, open to interpretation. It's where some of the wrestling ones in the box and a bit of handbags and things like that. Yes, you can interpret it different ways, but that to me was, there's no ball there. Well, there were 2 balls, but it was a red card.
This excuse that I didn't know he was there, like your other foot's literally right on him.
You can
feel,
know what I mean?
You can feel him there.
It was with a bit of excessive force as well.
Yeah,
he put a bit of pressure down on it. It wasn't like he just stumbled. There was a downward force. No,
it was the
applied.
same as Jago's the week before for me. It was very, very similar.
Yep.
What was bad? Oh, sorry, where am I at?
Yeah, the ugly.
The ugly. What was ugly for you, Jackson?
Some of the fan behaviour at HBF Park. I didn't witness it myself firsthand, but hearing some reports of some incidents in the shed and the bay after the game, and some other comments that got thrown around, it was disappointing because most of the fans who were there, and it was good turnout, around 7,000 at HBF Park, and 99% of them go there and enjoy themselves and have fun, but the 1% kind of put a dampener on it for me. So that was really unfortunate because there was a lot of excitement going into the first game, and pretty good numbers considering the averages haven't been great over the last few years. Been unfortunate that along with the performance, that element kind of ruined it a little bit.
I'm going to take that and run with it because I've written a little bit on this as well, and just the bitching and bickering between the supporter groups at the moment. It gives Mean Girls a bit of a run for its money, the bitching that's getting around at the moment, and I guess it's exacerbated a little bit by that separation between the shed and the old kind of something that fans have banged on about, the over 18s this area and the under 18s this area, and there is that segregation that does go on between the active groups. And to be serious, and I'm pretty sure you guys will back me up, that the rest of the ground couldn't give a dog's bollocks about the politics between the groups. Like, they go there and they expect to see a bit of a active support by the relevant groups, and even some of those that are in the home end don't care about the politics and everything else. But the last thing that a supporter base needs at the moment is, considering where the club is at, is mutiny in the stands as well. So I mean, I guess the supporter base is going to be judged more on not so much when the team's doing well, but when the team's not doing so well, and that fans are still going to rock up and support them actively week in, week out.
Some of it is absolutely born out of frustration with the performances on the pitch and with the stuff in the background and all of that. But it's the first game of the season, and to be having the bickering that's going on, and you can see it on the social media, he said, she said, and who cares? It's really petty. The fundamental point for me is that we do need younger people coming to the games and encouraging them to be active supporters. They also need to do it in the right way and be a bit respectful and not be little clowns that some of them definitely are.
Yeah.
But it works. Both sides of it need to just sort themselves out. And I don't want to get too preachy, and I'm going to get preachy in a minute. But I do think that it's a case of, if you're going to have an active end, get everybody working together, or else one of them just moves to the opposite end. You know, if you have to do something like that or in a different corner or whatever way, but we're not big enough that we can afford to be segregating active fan groups. I actually thought aesthetically the shed looked great at the weekend. When you looked across from where we were up in the media box, it looked as, I know there was people complaining that it was taking time to get in the gates, and I saw massive crowds because I got there about 2 minutes before kickoff. And there was huge lines to get in the gate and people still trying to get into the shed. But if you look at it at about 10 minutes into the game, it looked fantastic. Yeah. You know, there was banners there. It was really full. The front area that is now segregated for those other active bays was full. Brilliant. Like, that's class. That's what we want. But what the rest of the people don't see, and as you say, don't really care about, is the back and forth that was probably going on in those sections between people who support the same team.
Yeah.
It's just weird. Yeah. It's just weird behaviour.
I was up in the commentary box and someone said to me on the weekend, look, there's been a lot go into this game and we'd have a half-decent supporter base if they'd all just stopped their bickering. So it was just, it was just an ugly part of the weekend. And I guess something else that we want to, raise, and we'll do it now and get the bad guy notices out of the way, was, I'll let you take this away, Neil, if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a bit of soapbox time.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you guys are building it as well. But look, we had, the two lovely ladies who do great work for us, Donna and Maisie. We're looking for some fan reactions outside the shed after the game. It's just building content, trying to promote the game. We get people complaining that the newspapers and the television and the radio don't give football here enough coverage, and we don't get paid for any of this. We've all got jobs. We've all got lives. But some of the comments that they were subjected to in and around the shed after the game were disgraceful. And it's really not on. And I'm sure name and numbers will call me a snowflake and woke on Twitter after I say this. But people outing themselves as dickheads, it was horrible. We've got the audio for it. We'll happily pass it on to the club and the footage as well. And if anything comes of it, brilliant. If not, well, that's fine. We'll know for next time to be taking names and numbers of people, because it's not acceptable. And why anyone would want to out themselves as being disrespectful to women in a public place with kids and families around is beyond me, because it's embarrassing. And I say that as someone who's in their 30s, who's a white male who doesn't suffer any prejudice whatsoever. These guys are know their football. They're trying to help the game grow. And you've got absolute losers abusing them. And if someone wants to come up to me after a game and ask me to sit on their face, I'll take them up in the offer, and we'll see how that goes. But there's a time and a place for it, and in front of kids after a game of football on a Saturday night is absolutely not it. And look, the reality is, if it's something that happens quite often and it's something that maybe comes back to us on a weekly basis, we'll just stop doing it, because I've got better things to do than to listen to idiots.
And everyone does. And this is the thing, is that we do it because we want to just put a bit of content out there for people, and give the fans a chance to put their view forward on what they thought about the game and where they'd like to see the club go and everything else.
And I don't expect people to like everything that we do, and I don't expect people to agree. But if you don't like it, just walk past.
Yep.
If you don't want to be featured on any of the fan reactions, you don't want to be in a video, you don't, because you can't string a sentence together, then we're probably better off without you anyway. But just walk past and just ignore it and get on with your evening and do whatever you want to do. But abusing people for creating football content when we have very little of it as it is just stupid. So yeah, nice one for that.
We might go to a break on that note there, boys, and we'll come back on the other side and we'll talk a little bit about what happened on the field. This is the Far Post Perth Podcast, presented by ID Athletic.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Welcome back to the Far Post Perth Podcast, powered by ID Athletic. Don't forget, if you need kits, apparel, promotional items for your club for next season, go down and see the crew at House Street in Osborne Park, and they'll certainly take care of you, Josh and Austin and the team down there. Big thank you to them for their ongoing support of us here at the Far Post Perth Podcast. Boys, let's reflect on the weekend. We'll start here in Perth. It was a 2-0 result. Everyone was saying, look, it was a improved performance. It couldn't get any worse than the previous week. Let's be purely honest about that. But initial kind of thoughts on the performance, Neil?
What I will do is we'll go through a couple of the comments that we got from the socials to kind of set the scene from the game itself. Yes. So we had some goods. Cohen Go is his his performance off the bench looked pretty good. Pre-game, catching up with the lads and that sort of thing, pretty good. First 15 minutes with Faisal generating some attacking threat, energy and effort from Pennington and Ngo as well as subs off the bench. I thought Pennington added a lot considering he hadn't had any minutes in pre-season.
But did he just sit way too deep? Because they pushed Gamulka up.
I was sitting beside Ben Smith from the West, and in the second half, and the first pass that went to Pennington, he opened his body and played it straight to the other wing. It was a quick action in about 2 seconds, but it was the first time anyone had done it in the game. It wasn't a case of receive the ball, take 3 touches, lift your head, look around in 4 directions, and then play it. He received the ball from the right side, opened his body as the ball came to him, and played a 30-yard pass across to the other side. It's something that Wellington did all game, looking to get quick switches, to isolate the space. And I made a comment on my own Twitter account that the pitch looked so much bigger when Wellington had it. They were able to find all this acres of space out wide, whereas Glory, when they received the ball, were so slow to move it that it was very easy to reset and get into your block. So, yeah, I thought Pennington was good. A couple of bads, losing another home game. Didn't look threatening at all. Yep. And we had the midfield appeared non-existent. I would agree with that until Pennington came in, and hopefully he'll get more minutes in his legs. Bad we still lost. And the result, and then just a couple of uglies, because I know it's the theme of what we do. Being evicted with 4 minutes left for putting a sticker on the back of the shed. Shameful. The team is well below the required level to implement the plan that David Zrilic has, and I don't know if he necessarily wants a plan B. Our set pieces were woeful, attacking and defending. Completely agree with that. It was one thing that I'm going to mention this the weekend. Brandon O'Neill's in the team and is a really good free kick taker, but
Ayama was taking them, wasn't he?
Gamulka and Ayama were taking corners and free kicks, and the quality was horrendous, like really, really bad. Hitting the first man, just not getting any quality. And we'll get on to the defending for the goal, because I did ask David Zrilic specifically about one of the goals because it made me scratch my head. The ugly 8 goals conceded and only 1 scored. And HBF staff and management is in there as well. But that's going to be every season. Weekly. Every season. So yeah, that's just some of the thoughts of the listeners, subscribers, people who like us.
Keep them coming. Keep them coming. They they do certainly do put a smile on our face, and it's great to have the interaction. Jackson, what were your thoughts on Saturday night and what happened on the pitch?
Well, I think defensively, you take away the errors, and it was a much improved performance. I mean, last week it was 18 shots conceded in the box, and this week we kept Wellington to 8 shots in total and only the 2 on target, which of course were the 2 goals. So I think looking at the overall defending, it was pretty good, and I think it definitely helped having Hamzawi and Kalucha having proper fullbacks rather than having the 4 centre-backs we played last time. And also having Lockie Barr starting as well. I think we needed someone with a bit more A-League experience to assist there, so that was good. The attack was the thing that really surprised me, because I thought we'd be a bit more clinical. I thought we'd be a little bit better going forward, but I think, as Neil alluded to, just played too slowly, not enough progressive passes. The second half was just all, receive the ball, pass it out to the wing, come back inside. There's no little runs being made, can't find the gap in the middle. And then I thought there'd be something. You get to you can see in the 50th minute, You think, okay, next 10 minutes, let's just, compose ourselves, don't concede. Then get to 70 minutes. Okay, now we got to push on a little bit more. And then it got to like the 85th and the 90th, and you just knew it wasn't coming. And, in the past, it's always been, the crowd's lifted and the players are lifted and giving you something to try and give you hope. But it was just none of that. Like, it was pretty evident, getting towards the end of the game that we weren't going to score and, we weren't going to create any good chances. That's how it turned out.
Yeah, at one point we had, towards the end, 3 strikers, Blair, Williams, I know he was playing on the right mostly, and Taggart, but still couldn't muster shots on goal. And I thought Williams did a lot when he came on. Some of his deliveries from out wide were pretty good as well. And he was a ball of energy, but it shouldn't be up to a, was he 37-year-old, to be setting the standard coming off the bench. So I love David Williams. I think he's brilliant, and I'm glad he's been kept around again for another year. He just seems to be going and going. But it shouldn't be up to him. I just think that the guys that are playing, the big gap for me, and you've got it. You'll go on maybe a little bit more of a rant about the number 10 position. But if you're going to play 2 6s, you need somebody to then link the play to your front 3, which is effectively what they're playing at the moment. So if you're going to play 2 sitters and rather than 2 8s, if you've got 2 8s, you can play your 6 into your 2 8s, and they can go right and left, and they can do whatever. They can share the load. But if you're playing 2 screeners like they have been, it was Bodner and O'Neill in the first game, and it was changed up for the second one a little bit. You need that link player between your front 3, and that's a huge thing that's missing for me. You can't afford to have Taggart dropping deep, for example, because who's then the focal point of your attack? You need to be able to play the ball to your wingers high up the pitch, not your wingers coming deep to receive passes. I did notice Hamzaoui was hit and miss for me, but there was too many times when he would receive the ball and lift his head, and the passes were within probably 5 to 10 yards of him, as in the 6s and the centre backs. Or it was a punt down the line to someone who was like 5'6", and it's just missing that really critical link, say on the halfway line, between the halfway line and Taggart. There's just nothing there, and we're saying how many shots are they looking to take from around 25 yards? There was one at the end, pull back for Gomulka, and he sent it over the family stand, but there's no one around that 25 yards out getting ready to have a hit, and even that will make the opposition think. But we're not getting half chances like that either. Yeah,
isn't that, just back to your point though? But if you've got someone a little bit further on, isn't that kind of O'Neill's kind of territory when they're pressing high forward?
Well, it depends what he's been told to do. It looks pretty clear to me that they're down as 2 6s, because I was watching them in the first half, and when they were playing balls side to side across the back 4, he was there was no passing lane to him, but he was standing, relatively speaking, on the toes of the centre backs. And there was a real clear space in between his positioning. I mean, if that is his link role, he should be in the centre circle. Yeah. Right? He shouldn't be 25, 30 yards from his own goal. He should be centre circle, receive the ball there, turn and play forward. But it's that area of the pitch. And that's why I think Bagaria was dragged at half time, because he just didn't do much. And I thought Gomulka was disappointed. Gomulka's a bit older and a bit more experienced and was good in the A-League last year, but he hasn't shown, and good in pre-season, right? A good run. He just... I don't know what's happened since a competitive ball has been kicked in the A-League, but it's just not doing it for me.
Is he the one that's likely to fill that number 10, Gomulka?
I don't know. At this stage, I don't know. I haven't seen anything from anybody to suggest that they are going to grab that shirt and stay there as the link player. And I'm not sure there's a natural one in the squad, which is, we've talked about it, and people on social media have banged on about it all pre-season, that they never addressed it by signing number 10. They've a load of 10. They've got a load of little wingers. And I said, one thing I did say earlier in the before the season, was that there looked like there was 2 players for every position. Not much difference between them, whether it was Bodner and O'Neill, whether it was Gomulka and Bagaria, and then you've got Faisal and Ngo and
O'Neill.
And then you look at the right side. Then you've got Carluccio right back, Risden. You've options everywhere, but 0 10s.
And I was having a chat about. We had a chat about this, myself and Tommy Dolman, after we called the game for Sport FM on Saturday night, and he actually suggested the only one that looks to be a 10 is Jalen Pearman, who plays at number 10.
Yeah, it's a good shout. Yeah,
who plays at number 10 for the NPL side. But he's far from experienced. Do you throw him in, Jackson?
Yeah, it's worth a shot. But then you look at the players that we utilised for this game, and I thought the starting lineup was pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. When you look, you have Gamorka and O'Neill playing as the sixes and Taggart as the striker. Then the three behind Taggart are Faisal, Bulgaria, and Aoyama. They've got no A-League experience. Their only games were the week before against MacArthur. These are all guys who've played MPL last season and only just playing at the top level this season. So should we really be surprised that, we shouldn't expect them to be able to make the leap up straight away, especially when there's three of them who it's a lot to ask for them to make the step up and create chances straight away.
I was really interested to see Caleb Majeka-Dunmi miss out.
Yeah, he wasn't the only one. Maybe the sacrificial lambs from the week before. And
But to miss out completely?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can only probably carry one centre back on the bench, and you gave Labib. They weren't. Neither was as. Yeah, maybe he'll come back in this week. He didn't. It wasn't mentioned at all. In the 15-minute post-game press conference, that was a long one. Yeah, and the other thing for me was Aoyama. I don't think we'll see him in the team this week. It was Zrilic kind of touched on it that he didn't do enough in the press in the first half, and that contributed because it was actually asked by there's a Japanese reporter who goes to all the games.
Yep.
Great, yeah, he's brilliant. But he asked specifically about Aoyama and whether it was an injury or what was a tactical, and it was basically tactical. He wasn't doing the press enough that for Israel.
We touched on it last week, but to spend a visa spot on a Japanese player from the New South Wales MPL, and this is why I said, why don't we just look a little bit, Indonesia, Malaysia, kind of these kind of players, and get someone that's just a little bit of a higher pedigree.
Yeah, look,
it seems a bit of a waste for me at the moment.
It's a punt for sure, and he's 28 years of age.
Yeah.
It's now or never for him as a player. So I mean, I don't begrudge the guy the opportunity, but I haven't seen anything so far to suggest he's at the level. In terms of the 10, I'd actually play David Williams there this week. I'd play Williams off Taggart. Play him as a 10 because he's got the experience. He can communicate to the young wingers either side and hopefully at least drop a little bit deep and hold the ball up and bring other people into play. So yeah, if it was me, I'd probably look to play Williams off Taggart from the start this week.
Changes at half-time were quite interesting because I thought that the avenue to goal was coming down that left through Hanzawi and Faisal for much of that first
I'm
half,
just not
at least the first half of the first half.
We did ask Zrilic about that and whether that was intentional, and he said it was pre-planned, but I don't know if it was triggered by the goal just before half-time.
Sure.
Not sure whether that forced his hand a little bit.
Well, Faisal was really good in like the opening 10, 15 minutes, constantly involved. But then as the half wore on...
Well, I think he won about 6 corners in that first, in that first half.
Yeah, but later on, he saw his influence just got a little bit less and less. And maybe it's a fitness thing, playing this high-pressing style, and he's still a young kid. So maybe that was one of the reasons why they made 3 changes at the break. People running out of legs.
Who was good, guys? Who did you enjoy in the weekend? For me, it was Kwarango.
Yeah,
he was the one who brought a bit of energy.
Definitely.
He's a bit of a terrier.
He's got that a bit of unpredictability around him. He's got quick feet, low centre of gravity. Probably a bit of a nightmare for a tired fullback. So whether he's a starter at this stage, I'm not too sure. But as an impact sub, excitement machine, and somebody that maybe will get people off their off their seats a little bit, I thought Williams as well. And Pennington. Sorry, Pennington was the highlight for me because having not played a minute and to come in and look serviceable in that midfield area, hopefully he will play. I don't know if he'll start this week, but he got 45. He came through it well. Get him in. The sooner he can start, the better. And I know I'm saying a lot after watching the guy for 45 minutes, but and maybe it's a little bit of desperation in that area to get someone who's going to move the ball quickly. But I thought he definitely made a big difference instantly when he came on.
I wanted to talk about this ongoing fitness issue. Again, a conversation that I had on the weekend with Tommy Dolman, and he brought this up. We've played the most amount of preseason games that we have in quite a few years, Jackson. It's just not washing this unfit. You've got injured guys. Injured guys are injured guys, don't get me wrong. But the rest of them should be up to speed and match fit.
Yeah,
they're clearly not.
It doesn't really add up. And when you consider how young the squad is as well, there's so many youth players. I can't really pinpoint it. I can't really pinpoint it at all because preseason, again, we look pretty good in preseason. Most of the games, apart from maybe Moreton City in the Cup, most games, that we've brought good energy and players have looked fine. So I don't really know what happened in like the last month or so for players to come into the A-League season, not fit, not ready, can't play 90 minutes. Yeah, it's really baffling, and I hope we get answers and some more clarity on the issue from either Stan or David or even Ross Pelligra. But yeah, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
No, I can't.
No, and it is concerning because he wants to play a high intensity press, and it was the one quote I really took away from a Glory perspective from Italiano, the Wellington coach, where he said that Glory will be harder to play later on in the season when they're fit because they'll be able to maintain that. But he knew that Glory would eventually run out of legs this early in the season with that intense type of press. And for them, it was just a case of, we'll just play football until they get tired. And we saw that, and it's going to happen sooner, earlier in the season because you're not conditioned. So I think the philosophy and the style of play and this pressing is great in theory, but we're going to get into warmer nights and days, and you might end up picking up, if you run your players into the ground too early in the season, they're more likely to pick up injuries as well. So he's openly admitted it's about game management, it's about managing the players, and it's about minutes, and it's about all of this, but that's not going to get you results. At this stage, if you're rotating constantly and bringing people in and out, and I know his hand was forced after 6-1, you couldn't play the same team anyway. You had to make some changes, but it's a bold strategy for me to go this straight away into a high intensity press with players who aren't fit, and they're admitting it already. It's concerning.
Just on that as well, like Wellington were able to play around that as well. You notice in the first 15, 20 minutes, whenever they had a goal kick, they would go short, and Glory would press up really high, shut down all the space, and we won the ball up high up the pitch quite a few times. And then as the game wore on, they were just going long. They just stopped going short after goal kicks. And
they did the same against Western United. They sucked them into the 6-yard box, goalkeeper and the 2 centre-backs taking really short kick-outs, and then they would just play over them at times.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Boys, before we move on from the Glory, off-field news.
Well, I have one more thing on the game.
Oh, go.
One more thing.
Come
this
on.
is my big one, because I did ask Davis Rich afterwards.
Go ahead.
The first goal, it was a free kick from the corner of the box, cross, and a header from Wellington's tall centre-back.
Got Wooden, yep.
Where were Glory's 2 centre-backs?
In the wall.
In the wall.
Yeah.
In the wall. I did ask if that was by accident or design, to have your 2 centre-backs set up in the wall, and it was yes, to defend a direct shot. Even though Ollie Sale was covering that side, he was quite central with his positioning because it was so far over. He didn't have to stand to one side. He was able to be in the middle of the goal. I find it really bizarre that either Kanga or Barr were not in the middle, at least one of them. If you're going to put a big guy on the end of the wall to stop it being easy to go on that top, I think Gamulka's quite tall as well, isn't he? So maybe you could have stuck him there instead of one of your centre backs. If they've sent up their big number 4 and he's in there and he's a threat. It was such a simple goal, a simple looking goal. Plus, you've got a little bit naivety from attackers marking him as well.
He disguised it really
he
well.
Did, absolutely, he did, but there was a little bit of naivety in the marking as well, that it was attacking players in and around that area to mark a centre back. Look, maybe it's a bit simplistic, but give me centre back on centre back in that situation. Certainly not having both my centre backs in the wall for a free kick from the corner of the box.
And I'd like to see Kanga throw himself around a little bit more at both ends of the park. Whether he was chucked up, for Glory's free kicks as well, but I'd like to just see him. He's a big boy. Just throw your weight around a bit.
Yeah, look, maybe it's one of those things, 9 times out of 10, the guy has a shot and it hits the wall or the keeper saves it easy and we're not talking about it. But if it goes wrong, it to me, having 2 centre-backs in a wall is weird behaviour. But hey.
Boys, off-field, the move this week, or the big news this week, was the move to Mirrabooka. That'll happen am I right in saying at the end of this?
Next season for 2025. Yeah.
Okay, so at the end of this season, it'll start to move, I imagine. Thoughts? I mean, it doesn't look as a full time.
It's temporary-ish.
Yeah.
5 plus 5, 5-year initial, and then potential to renew, which is pretty good. It's a 5-year lease at the Sterling Leisure in Mirrabooka. Lots of space there, which is probably a big thing to be able to get all operations. Because first of all, I'm delighted they're moving back north because trekking to Freo is an effort.
I like Freo.
So yeah, well, you problem to deal with now. Come on north, bring your passport.
I just it's not the positioning of it. I just like Freo. No. I'm a Freo kind of person.
Yeah, but in terms of the setup, I mean, I went down to the gym and all of that down there and had a look at it. And the gym facilities themselves are great at South Fremantle. They've got their offices there, but they can't train there. Yeah. The players have to drive 10 minutes to a public park, park there. There's actually no facilities at the public park either. They have to come back. This will, in theory, they say it's going to be A-League standard training pitches and all the operations in the one spot. Players will have a single base to go to train. Now, it's not purpose-built, which is what we would obviously like to see. Like, the club still doesn't own any assets. We're just leasing this off the council, so that's a fundamental point. It doesn't solve the bigger issue of Glory not owning anything and having something tangible to build on as a club and as foundations, for the next future generations and all of that. So, but to me, it's a massive positive to get a 5-year and to be all in the one space. I do wonder how it's going to line up with operations at the Sam Kerr
I'm going to ask
Centre.
that question, Jackson, because I think many people are probably thinking it, and I'm sure this has been flagged previously about building some parts onto the Sam Kerr Football Centre that house Perth Glory. So you've literally got an all-functioning, at all levels, football facility there. That just makes a little bit more sense to me.
It does, but I thought the Sam Kerr Football Centre was more like a Football West. I thought that was more.
Well, it is,
more
but
for them.
that's what I'm saying. If Perth Glory were going to go and just an add on to that, because the amount of use that area would get during the midweek, I'd say, and I might be wrong about this, but I'd say it'd be minimal.
But you can't fit all of Glory's teams at the football centre. Now, I still haven't been there. My boycott is still in place.
Why have you got a boycott? What's that all about, Neil?
I don't like the location. It's too far, and they charge $15 for a can of beer. So everything's north. Everything's north now, so we're good. If they just move the MPL and the women to the north, we'll be good. But no, I do wonder about how that's going to work, because they can't really move the women because there's no stands or anything at this Mirrabooka facility. It's purely for training. They're still going to have to play games at Sam Kerr.
Yeah.
So they are going to still be in two different places based on games, and maybe they could have MPL there, given that it's let's be honest, played in front of a man and his dog on some occasions. You could have temporary stands would satisfy the MPL stuff, but for the women, you'd probably need to leave them at Sam Kerr. So it's interesting to see how that plays out, but I do think it's a positive and a step in the right direction. The state government committed $1.2 million towards the upgrades, which is a nice little amount. And it'll be very interesting to see if our new owner dips his hand in his pockets as well to top that up a little bit. But the council has allocated $700,000 to the project in its 2024-25 annual budget, with 2 of the soccer pitches at Mirrabooka Regional Open Space to be upgraded to A-League standard. So you might get some friendlies there, might be able to play some games and that. And it's a long way from training on the dog shit at UWA. So... we've got to be thankful that we've come a little bit, but it's good. I don't see any negatives to it at the moment. There's going to be upgrades, including turf, lighting, and fencing. So you might actually get some MPL there if there's fencing and lighting. And that sort of thing put in there. So.
We'll see where it goes. Boys, we've got to get through. It's taken up a fair bit of time on this episode, but other results across the weekend. MacArthur 1, Newcastle 2. As Jackson said, it all kicked off after the game, but this is a result for Newcastle, Jackson.
Yeah, unexpected, because MacArthur had most of the chances. It was just two very good goals from Eli Adams. We should have seen this coming, because he scored that brilliant goal.
Belter against us against Glory last year.
So they managed to pull one out of the fire, and the penalty save as well was good from Ryan Scott as well. So good result for them, because I think most of us had them pinned for the spoon this year. So although I think they'll still finish down towards the bottom, but it's a good little confidence booster for them.
Neil, Adelaide 1, Central Coast 1. Hindmarsh looked great. Peter Malinauskas, the SA Premier, was in the home end, and it all looked pretty good. The result, though, 1-1.
Yeah, I think, last week, most of us, it was specifically me, probably not, but we said draw probably in this one. Starting out, we weren't sure what we get. Good crowd, though, 9,800.
Just a nice little venue. We say it each week, but it's just a nice little venue.
Yeah, solid crowd in. I think both sides would be happy. It's Adelaide's first game. Central Coast playing away from home. They got 2 points from 2 tricky games: Melbourne victory and Adelaide away. So they will see that as just dipping their toe in the water. And now they get a gimme this weekend. So yeah, we'll see how that goes in their home game against Glory. But now hopefully Glory can get a result there. But yeah, solid.
Funny how you said that everyone picked a draw for last week, but this is the first time these two teams have drawn in 6 years.
Is that right?
Yeah, 2018 was the last time there was a stalemate between these two sides, so interesting little fact there.
Just don't bring him next week if he's just going to blow our predictions out with stats, with facts.
Just a little note I thought was...
these idiots thought it was going to be a draw and there hadn't been one for 6 years.
No, but it was a good prediction because it came true.
Very good. Melbourne City 1, Melbourne victory 3. We kind of spoke about this in a good, bad, and ugly. Ryan Teague, overhyped or a one-off, or is he a genuine kind of promising player?
He was very good last year.
Yeah,
thought he was a very good player last year. Good introduction into the league, and he stayed around. I'm sure he probably would have got some offers because I think he's one of the good young players, and Vlupale as well, getting a goal. 20,000 at it, solid crowd. Didn't get the narrative I wanted with Kisnorbo. That was a shame. But victory, yeah, they set themselves up nicely in the first 25 minutes, and it was done and dusted again. Andrew Nabu scored in the second half. So a lot of work for City to do there. We did, I think the predictions said that they would have a fall off, and they definitely didn't replace the players that they lost with similar quality. And that's coming to the fore very early in the season. There was already a bit of pressure on Aurelio Vidmar last year in terms of performance and him as a coach. And I think he might be the hot tip for first manager booted maybe by Christmas.
Booted or booted?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Get him out, by Christmas. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they continue their poor start.
Cheeky Nando's it was at Auckland. The big centre-back with the back heel to send Auckland crowd into raptures over Sydney FC in the Steve Corica derby.
Yeah, very, very good from Auckland. 2 clean sheets, perfect record. Only team left in the A-League after 2 rounds. Very impressive from them. Thought Liam Gillian was incredible on the left for them. Just absolutely lightning quick. Unlucky not to score as well. And then for Sydney, I think Anas Wahim is going to be a great signing. Just watching him glide around in the middle of the park was just amazing. And we talk about Glory, lucky number 10. That's that sort of player. Imagine him in the Glory midfield now. Like imagine the difference that kind of player could make. Only.
Am I allowed to say that the first 70 minutes was a little bit crap in that game?
Auckland against Sydney.
Yeah, I had it hyped up at 11 o'clock Sunday morning for us. So it was this is a great way to spend the Sunday morning, and it was just a load of meh for the first. And then there was a bit of controversy around what we mentioned earlier. Should have been a penalty.
Yeah.
Was
and
there
then Sydney scored.
Yeah. Sydney had a goal disallowed for the offside, and then we had the drama at the end. So we probably did get a game's worth of drama eventually. But yeah, I thought the two sides probably cancelled each other out a little bit, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But big concerns for Sydney, to be honest, was the injuries. Douglas Costa didn't start. That's it. Yeah. Well, Lolly I was going to get onto because he's a big loss and would be more of a concern. But Douglas Costa, you bring in your big visa signing, and he's already got a niggle in week 2. A player with a bit of a checkered history as it is. Definitely a bit of a concern for me in that one. So if they're without Douglas Costa and Lolly, they become a lot less. And Holman came off injured as well. So they definitely become a lot less of a daunting prospect. We had them all pretty much chalked down as being the team to beat, but you remove that quality. They could struggle.
And Western United against Wanderers. I was just interested to see how they went out there at Ironbark Field. They got a good crowd down there and temporary seating and cheap and cheerful, I think.
Yeah, we're not meant to say that they're doing good things, are we?
No, they are.
But they are, and it was a solid 4,000 crowd. I know that it was the Wamata factor, people turning up to see him, but that's the whole purpose of bringing in marquees, right? That it gets people to games. Wanderers did bring some travelling support. It still looks like it's in the middle of absolute nowhere and a nightmare to get to. So that definitely needs...
The train goes straight past it, though.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was actually watching it, and you could see the train.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But it is still just once it builds up around it, and it's a good start. And turning some of those temporary stands into permanent fixtures would be good. The pitch was fantastic. The surface to play on the game was fine. Wasn't anything exciting. Mata waddled around a little bit. He wasn't amazing, but he was there, and I thought Borello took his goal really well, bodied the defender, showed good strength, and then just rifled home a finish. That to me was very clinical. But overall, that was a decent watch for Sunday afternoon. Yeah, I didn't mind it.
Very good. Boys, we'll take a bit of a break. We'll look ahead to round 3 next. You're on the Far Post Perth Podcast.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Final part of the Far Post Perth Podcast, boys. Let's look ahead to round 3 of the A-League men's competition. It'll start on Friday night. We will see Brisbane up against Sydney. Bit of a week off for Brisbane. Sydney, we just spoke about the injury concerns. This is a shot for Brisbane, surely, Jackson.
Yeah, they're a chance, but I still think Sydney are going to be too strong for them. I think even with injuries, they've still got a lot of depth and still a lot of class players. So yeah, I think they'll manage to get the job done over there.
Neil?
Well, you didn't touch on the big game on Friday night, which is the Joga Benito Tour. Tim Cahill's 11 against Ronaldinho's 11, clashing at the same time as the A-League. So
and they're both on Paramount. Actually, one's on 10, isn't it? Isn't like that on 10?
I haven't paid enough attention to that sort of nonsense to know the detail. I just know that it's on at the same time, and it's
weird.
Yeah, strange. But anyway, for this one, depends who comes back for Sydney. We mentioned in the last segment about their injuries. But Brisbane aren't very good. So I think this might be a draw if Sydney don't get their players back. I have a sneaky suspicion Brisbane might board them into submission.
Kiwi Derby, 12 p.m. Perth time on Saturday. I'm so looking forward to this. I think this is at the Wellington at the Cake Tin. This will go close to one of the biggest football crowds in.
Hope so. Hope it does.
New Zealand ever. I think I could really kind of ram it.
I think Wellington Phoenix and their supporters need to make a bit of a statement. You know that this is their turf.
Yeah.
They're the ones that were there first, and if they get a pitiful attendance, it will look bad in terms of optics. I think they will get a good crowd and they'll make a big effort of it. So I'm looking forward to it. And I think it's going to be a good spectacle. And yeah, you just need to build it up. Just don't use that silly name for the game, and we'll be good.
There was a I can't think of the name, and I don't want to offend anyone, but there was actually a Maori name meaning North Island Derby, which I think it went down a little bit nicer than that silly name, which shall not be used. Central Coast, we can watch this one straight into the glory, boys, because Central Coast will host Perth 2 p.m. Saturday. Thoughts?
It's away from home, so we're going to lose.
Yeah, I don't hold them much hope. I would take a brave 2-1 defeat now if you were to hand it to me, and some positive signs, and a few shots on goal would be lovely too. So. Yeah. Western
United will host Adelaide at Combank. That is happening in the evening. So that is pretty much the match of the.
I like that fixture though. Like it's a good stadium for it.
Yep.
Intrigued to see what Adelaide can offer away from home, and Western Sydney, the stature factor as well is obviously intriguing for us at the moment.
Were you expecting a bit more from Western Sydney thus far?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was. Yeah, I was. I had them up towards the top in my predictions. Yep. So yes, I was, and this to me should be a statement game from them. So I'd be expecting a performance. Yeah.
The first game on a Sunday, Jackson's going to be a cracker. It is Melbourne Victory against Macarthur, two teams that are going pretty well. Of course, Melbourne Victory. A win and a draw. Macarthur, they'll look to bounce back. They would be horrified when they look back on that footage against Newcastle. Yeah,
they should have got at least something from the game. They've started off well, and a lot of their games are in New South Wales, so they haven't got a lot of travel. That's not really going to be a factor in the opening rounds. I do like Victory. I think I had them tipped to win both the toilet seat and to beat the premiers. I think Kazan was a really good coach, and I think he showed that they've got a pretty strong start. Even the first game, they went down to 10, still held on and got a point away at Central Coast, which is pretty tough. I think they'll win this one. I think they've got enough quality going forward to hurt MacArthur.
I'm going to pick a draw in that one. Neil, what are your thoughts on Melbourne victory, MacArthur?
Victory for me based on the MacArthur collapse last week. Even they had the opportunity to equalise from the penalty spot, and it was a dreadful penalty. Keeper still has to save it, but it was a poor penalty from an experienced player and captain in the last minute of the game to salvage a point, and that to me was a little bit of lacking in character. I think victory just bouncing after that Derby win, and I think they'll win the game.
Western Melbourne United. I'm just so sick of these clubs that keep using West when they're not in the West. Western United against Melbourne City is the last game of the round, Jackson.
But two solid results for Western. Draw away at Wellington and getting a result against Western Sydney, who everyone thought was going to be really good. I think they'll make it 3 from 3. I think this will be another draw.
It's a Monday game.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that.
Because it's the Melbourne Cup next week.
Yes. Yeah, it will be.
So it's the night before that. And you'll notice that it's at Amy Park.
They get a public holiday on the Monday and the Tuesday.
No, so it's a night game on the Monday.
Oh, got it, because the Tuesday public.
Yeah. So it's a 7 p.m. kickoff, I think, on the Monday night, and then they've got the day off the next day.
That's not too bad, is it? Yeah.
No, but it's shifted after Western United saying they didn't want to play any games away from their new stadium. They're now playing their second home game at Amy Park. So there you go. So I think Western United will win the game because more pressure on Vidmar. I don't think Melbourne City are up to much at the moment, and if Bajic is suspended for a couple of games, it's another out for them.
All right, boys, that is round 3 of the A-League men. Let's have a look at round 1 of the A-League women. Kicks off this coming week. Jackson, what are your thoughts on where the Glory's at? Big turnover, lost a lot of players. Hannah Lowry's coming out a little bit scathing, so she doesn't want to stick around. She wants to win trophies. She doesn't feel that she's going to be able to do that with Perth, and off she goes to Sydney. But where do you feel the rest of the side's at?
Oh, I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle compared to last year. I've got the list here of the outs. Aquino, Liz Anton, Jess Cowart, who re-signed and then left like a week or so after, which is very surprising. Obviously, Tash Rigby retired and was a great stalwart for the club. Lowry is a big loss because she was amazing in the midfield last year. Zakalis, Grace Jale, even though she didn't have the biggest impact last year.
Started well and then just fell with the rest of the team, unfortunately.
And
Grace was a fan.
Yeah, Millie Farr is also another big out because she was the one who put in a lot of effort as striker.
Where does she?
She's at Sydney now as well.
Yeah. Wow.
That's eight players who probably get into your starting 11 from last season out this year. But there's been some more right acquisitions. Casey Dumont's a pretty good replacement for Aquino in goal. Anya Nietzsche-Zog has got some experience in Europe. So
announced as co-captain as well.
Yeah, with Liz Dalton.
Yep.
Megan Wynn, I think could be the one to watch. Welsh winger. Gabby Holler's she's been in some good form in the MPL in Victoria, I believe. So I think she's got a couple of goals in the state game as well. So one to look out for. I think it'll be tough for the Glory to get close to finals. But again, last year, they started off really well and it fell off a cliff pretty quick. So if we can be a bit more consistent throughout the whole season, then that'd be a bonus. And I think being at Sam Kerr is also better ground. Interesting to see how many fans they get there. Obviously, it's a bit more of a trek compared to Macedonia, which I really loved, the athletic there.
Yep.
But we'll see. Should be interesting.
And I think we've got a double header coming up, don't we?
Yeah,
is it next home game?
Yeah.
Next week?
Yeah, Melbourne City.
Okay, so looking forward to that.
I think the big thing really is the coaching turnover. The drop off last season from the women's team, how they started so well and just plummeted to form that was just dreadful. You can't sugarcoat it in any way. And the high turnover of players is concerning on one hand, but on the other, maybe it's necessary. Break that culture, get in a load of new faces. The coach, Stephen Peters, has been very successful in New South Wales. He's embedded deep into the women's game here, and will maybe bring players across with him. I know that we have this thing every year about getting WA based players and getting bringing through the young, but for me it's about a balance and making sure that you've got a squad that can actually compete for the full season, because we've got a full home and away program. There's lots of games, lots of travel involved as well. For people that are not necessarily full-time professional footballers. So having a good squad, a deep squad, and yes, absolutely giving opportunities to young players. but they can't have what happened last year happen again.
Needs some consistency.
So consistency, I think, but to Jackson's point, very difficult to make finals with some strong teams in the league. You expect the big hitters to be up there again. Melbourne City, Sydney, Canberra, you'd think, might make a bit of better fist of it this year, considering they were one of the two teams that finished below Glory. I don't like the men's team. I think finishing around that 8th, 9th, 10th would be acceptable with improved performances and something to build on. But as we've seen with the men's team, it's easier said than done.
Fixtures across the weekend. Friday night, Western United against Wellington. Saturday, Central Coast against Sydney. Canberra against Brisbane on the Saturday as well. Adelaide will host Melbourne Victory. The last game on the Saturday. On Sunday will be Melbourne City against Perth. Looking forward to that. We'll keep an eye on that one across Sunday, I'm very sure. And Newcastle against Western Sydney to round out round one of the A-League W. We are just about set to wrap things up, boys. Final predictions for the week.
Oh, bold prediction?
Bold prediction for the week, yes.
Douglas Costa back into the side, gets a hat-trick against Brisbane.
That is bold.
There will be some sort of pitch invader at the Kiwi Derby.
Nah.
Somebody will come on and do something on the pitch. Maybe remonstrate with Alex Paulson or something, or throw a snake at him, or a rubber snake, something like that. Something I think we'll get something. The only issue being that by the time you jump from the stands and try to get onto the pitch, you've probably run 200 metres and be out of breath. So it is a long way to go. If it was maybe at a tighter stadium, we might see what we saw. It was at Vedran Janjetovic, where they threw the rubber snakes on top of the goal in the Sydney Derby. So something like that. I think we've something Alex Paulson related and being a snake.
Pretty specific, pretty bold too. I'm going to throw it out there. Glory get the win this week.
That's the boldest of
That's
the boldest.
the boldest of the boldest. I'm going to pick Glory to get a win this week. I think they can pull it up. Don't know. I'm not too sure.
Blind
Central
optimism.
Coast, that
stupidity.
Yeah.
Naivety.
Purple coated glasses as well and all that. No, I'm not too sure about Central Coast at the moment, and I feel this is an opportunity. I feel that there's probably an opportunity, and after the next 2-3 weeks, I think we're going to know where the Glory's at. But
I also remember, it wasn't last season, the season before, we had one win away from home, and I'm pretty sure it was against the Mariners in Gosford.
It was. So when was the last time there was a draw between Glory and Central Coast?
No
Just
idea.
before I give my prediction.
No idea.
But it'd be nice if they could come away with even a point. Would be something for us to come back to the next home game with. Yeah, I would take a point now.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. Boys, that's where we wrap things up. This has been the Far Post Perth Podcast. Big thank you to ID Athletic. Don't forget to tell all your friends about the Far Post Perth Podcast. Check out all the articles. And follow us on the socials. Of course, the podcast now available through Spotify, Apple, and YouTube Music. We'll see you next week for more here on the Far Post Perth Podcast.